This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Monday, March 25th, 2024. We're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, it is the latest edition of Between the Pods. I will be joined by Christie Wiebbecke, the Chief Officer of Research and Conservation with the Iowa Soybean Association. It's time now for our closing market summary.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
At the end of another trading day, we are joined by Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. Robin, Monday, how do we see the grains perform today?
Well, soybeans and soybean meal did pretty well. They held up in a higher level all day long. Corn kind of back and forth, mostly lower. Unchanged to lower. Wheat did a little bit of a swing. It was higher and it went down into lower, closer to the close. So just kind of the other ones, corn and wheat, just seem to follow each other, just kind of hanging out. Soybeans complex seeing a little more strength. Now, I don't think was really any kind of positioning ahead of the planting intentions or quarterly grain stocks report. I think that was a little bit too early for that. But we did have a couple of things that had some kind of an influence. Export inspections, first of all, corn was 48.3 million bushels, was down 3.9 million bushels from last week. Soybeans, 28.2 million bushels, up 2.5 million from last week. And wheat, 11.6 million bushels, down 2.9 million from last week. So if you just look at those numbers, you can kind of give an idea why we maybe saw a little bit of divergence there most of the day. Now, with that report coming out on Thursday, it's ironic that we have that report coming out and then we have an extended weekend. Of course, it comes out in the morning, so there is time to trade. But it comes in on a day when maybe some people will want to try to shut down a little bit on some of their trading activity. But anyway, the crop survey that's out has corn at 91.8 million acres. In 2003, it's down 2.8 million acres from 2023. Soybeans, 86.7 million acres, up 3.1 million acres, and wheat at 47.3 million acres, and that is up 2.3 million. So actually down 2.3 million acres. So that's what the average analyst survey is right now. Now, Ag Market, we put out our acreage last week. We have corn at 91.5 million acres. The USDA's forum had it at 91 million, their February forum. Soybeans, 86.1 for Ag Market, 87.5 for the USDA's forum, and wheat at 46.2 for Ag Market and 47 million acres for the Ag Forum. So we'll see how that all comes out. But and I don't know if some of it's changed from what USDA has. I don't know if that really had much impact on today, but it is something the traders are putting in the back of their minds for right now. Now, snowfall and the rains that we had over the weekend, a lot of them weren't quite as good as what many people had anticipated or the forecast had anticipated. So there's a little bit of concern there because we didn't recharge as much in the ground that had been anticipated of things coming through. So that really, I don't think had a lot of impact, but it's something, again, putting into the traders' minds. Now, USDA Foreign Ag Service, they lowered Brazil's soybean crop to 152.6 million metric ton. Now, we're seeing those numbers on a weekly basis by different analysts changing quite significantly. But they have been steadily lowering them, but it still doesn't put us into a position where the business will be coming to the U.S. like by leaps and bounds. So we don't see that because it's a large crop still from Brazil. Now, looking back to that report, the 4 out of the past 6 years, USDA has overstated corn acres on the Outlook Forum, and from what the actual ended up to be. And soybeans, the past 2 years, the planting intentions was not the USDA numbers, but the planting intentions in soybeans overstated the final number by 4 million acres each year in the last 2 years. So, the traders are going to be looking at all that together, and they're just mostly, I don't think anybody's going to take a stab at one way or the other. There's going to be a lot of position squaring ahead of that report on Thursday.
And another report that we received at the end of last week was the cattle on feed report. Robin, did we see ramifications from that today in the livestock side of the ag marketplace?
Yeah, we did. Some of that was factored in to some degree because we did see a significantly lower opening on the cattle. Then they came back into positive territory, and then they came back down again, which is a normal type of a reaction to the report. But it's positive to see that the price didn't stay down when it opened up, because some of that had been all factored in already. Now, the on-feed number was the estimate was 100.8%, came in at 101. So pretty much in line. The surprise was the placements. The estimate was 106.3%, and it came in at 110%. Now, that's the highest placements for the month of February in over 20 years. So we're looking at something there that, we've been seeing a lot of higher placement numbers numerous times over the last 6 months, maybe even longer than that has surprised the trade. Maybe we're starting to see something else take place here that is something that traders have to sit up and take notice that maybe you are seeing a little bit higher placements coming in, that the cattle market may not be quite as tight as anticipated throughout the rest of this year, but it's still early to tell that yet. Now, marketings were 103%, a little lower than the estimate of 103.9%. So we saw the reaction today, but numerous cattle on feed reports, you see a reaction, you see volatility that day, and then the market settles down and kind of moves back to where the fundamentals might be showing, and the fundamentals are showing still tighter numbers at this point in time. Now, box beef has been doing well. Box beef again today was up 29 cents in the midday report for the choice, and select was up 57 cents. That's been seeing some continued overall trend higher. And like last week on the cattle too, we had higher cash. That was 3 weeks in a row. We had higher cash trade, and there's some anticipation that the Packers might have to bid up again this week because of their being tight on supplies right now. They don't have a whole lot bought ahead. Over on the hog market, we ran through the liquidation we saw last week. 3 to 4 days liquidation. Was an overbought market. It corrected. Traders stepped back in today pretty good, moving the market up triple digits. And so it seems like that liquidation phase kind of ran its course now. Now, there was no cash prices released this morning due to Packer confidentiality, but we have some good hope because noon cutouts are up $2.27. Yesterday cutouts, or Friday cutouts were up over $2 as well. So that seemed to have been providing the support under the market because we were actually about $1 lower on cash on Friday. We don't know what cash will be today. And then again, a little bit too early, but we have a hog and pig report coming out on Thursday. Now that'll come out after the close, so the traders will have a whole weekend to decipher that and figure out what they're going to do when we come back on next week, Monday morning.
Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net, our guest here today. Robin, thanks so much for the time. What's the best way for our viewers to get in touch for more marketing information? They can call me directly if they would like at
844-256-3253, or go to our website, agmarket.net. The 844 number is there. Feel free to call in and somebody will answer and help you.
Robin, thanks so much for the information here today. We appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week.
All right, you too, and thank you.
Thank you to Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net for our market summary. Let's turn now to the closing numbers, which can be found under the Markets tab on our website at iowaagnet.com.
May corn down 1.5 at 437 3/4. May soybeans up 16 3/4 at 1209 1/4. May soybean meal up 2 3/4 at 341.70. May soybean oil up $1.38 at 49.02. Chicago wheat up 1/4 cent at 5.55 even. Minneapolis wheat down 1.5 at 6.59 1/2. Kansas City hard red wheat down 1 even at 5.89 1/2. May oats up 3 even at 3.61 1/4. On the Merc, April live cattle down $1.30 at 186.20. April feeder cattle down $1.05 at 250.45. April lean hogs up 57 cents at 85.15. April pork cutout up $1.52 at 93.95, and Class 3 milk up 15 cents at 15.72.
That is our ag market coverage for today. It is time now to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff. Up next, it is the latest edition of Between the Pods.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
You're watching Ag Matters PM, and it is time now for the latest edition of Between the Pods. In today's episode, I'm joined by Christie Wiebbecke, the Chief Officer of Research and Conservation with the Iowa Soybean Association.
It's time to go between the pods with the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network and the Iowa Soybean Association. For the next year, we will explore the ways Iowa-grown soybeans are making a difference at home and around the world. Now, here's your host of Between the Pods, Mark Magnuson.
Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and we are here for the latest edition of Between the Pods, and I'm joined by Christie Wiebbecke. And Christie, could you remind us, please, your role within the Iowa Soybean Association?
Absolutely. I'm the Chief Officer of Research and Conservation at ISA.
And here today we are at Farm Forward, which is an event in downtown Des Moines, and it truly is about the future of the Iowa soybean when we think about not just farming for this next season, but upcoming seasons as well, and that's where the research comes into it. So thanks for joining us here today, Christie. Could you tell us your day-to-day responsibilities on the job?
Sure. At ISA, with the Research and Conservation team, I'm the lead of the Research Center for Farming Innovation, where we have an on-farm research team, an analytics and insights team, and a conservation team. And those teams really work hand in hand with each other. The on-farm research drives our analytics and insights, which either drive new research hypotheses or they drive technical implementation. And some of that's conservation practices like bioreactors, saturated buffers, pollinator habitats, or even things like cover crop.
And here today, I know one of the panel discussions, the future of soybean breeding, was that a wide open discussion? Was that a narrow focus on like high oleic soybeans? What did you talk about specifically?
So we really opened the gamut to talk about everything under the sun related to soybeans and traits. We had one organization, Zeacal, that has a focus on increasing oil by increasing photosynthetic capability of a soybean. We had Bayer Crop Science talking about their gene editing technologies and the molecular improvements that they're working on to drive local solutions. And we had Iowa State University breeder that was talking about how they do selection and breeding efforts for Iowa farmers. So really it was all encompassing, really, what are we doing in soybeans and genetics to take the soybean varieties to the future and solve problems that farmers are facing.
So I would imagine then talking about the things that we already know that soybeans need to be very good at, and that's the drought resistance, pest resistance, those types of things. But then you're also talking about very specific specialty soybeans, aren't you, and the things that they would be capable of?
Yeah, so with Zeacal specifically, they were talking about how they're increasing oil production because if you increase soil production in a soybean, you can lower the carbon intensity score of soybeans, which is a benefit for climate smart initiatives. It's also a sustainability benefit, and you get more oil, which is attractive to crushers. And they're able to, in their products, actually maintain that higher protein level so that they're regaining the capture of protein that we've lost historically from traditional focus on high yield in soybeans. So it's a really cool new opportunity that's focused currently in the Delmarva of the United States, but they're hoping to expand into Iowa.
So is that something you think we will see continue to expand, the specialty soybeans and their specialty uses?
I think there's definitely a drive to find local solutions. And if growers and processors and producers can all come together and find those local solutions and maybe even have local processing facilities where they can reclaim that value add, we're going to have that capability to manage those local solutions and bring the premium back to the farmer.
So Christie, through your role of research and all of the testing that happens and seeing the results and putting them into action, is there still a long way for soybeans to grow? Can they continue to become even more efficient and just a better product all the way around?
I think absolutely yes. And the reason that I say yes is because for the history of soybean breeding, we've really been breeding for traditional, conventional tillage operations. We've been breeding and selecting varieties in conventional tillage management practices, and now that we're moving into these conservation practices, breeders are recognizing that, industry is recognizing that, which changes the agronomic needs of the soybean, it changes the management practices the soybean is going to be in, and it changes that whole triangle of management, environment, and genetics. And because of that, you need to develop new soybean varieties that are going to be successful in those systems, and then layer on that climate change and layer on that new uses of soybeans. So we have this trajectory that we can continue to improve yield, improve the quality of the soybean, while shifting to the management practices that we see growers using more day to day.
Is there anything else from today's presentation that you'd like to let our audience know about, our Iowa growers and all the work that's being done?
I think partnering with your local agronomist and really understanding what are your needs on the farm, what are the agronomic challenges, what are the management practices that you're raising your soybeans in on the farm, and then identifying those right varieties and having conversations back to industry. One of the biggest asks of all three industry partners was the input from the farmer and making sure that they have that feedback loop into their varietal development process so that they can make sure that they're developing solutions that a farmer is going to want to grow, that's going to be profitable, productive, and sustainable. And so making sure that farmers are sharing their message, sharing that feedback back to industry so that we can continue to drive the soybean industry and the varieties that come in the future.
And is it just information then from the farmers, the best way to get involved on the research side of things, just helping you guys out with what you do?
I think one of the ways that you can get involved with the Research Center for Farming Innovation at Iowa Soybean is contacting our local agronomists. We have a ask page on iowasoybean.com where you can request to get information. You can request to be contacted by one of our research agronomists or conservation agronomists. We don't do varietal trials, but we do a lot of other cool research that is locally relevant, local insights, answering questions that you have on your farm, and that's a great way to get involved with the Research Center for Farming Innovation.
And one more thing I was thinking of, Christie, for growers around the state of Iowa, yes, very similar environment on the whole, but do you take different parts of Iowa into account when you're doing all of your research and trials?
Absolutely. So if we test things in the lobe, in the Des Moines lobe, for example, we know that isn't always going to translate to things that happen in Northwest Iowa or Southeast Iowa. So we may start a project in a very small geography, more of a proof of concept. Do we have the experimental design right? Do we have the interface with the farmers to understand how their equipment is going to handle the experimental design? But once we understand that, we'll broaden it out to statewide trials so that we can get those locally relevant insights back to the farmer, and they can understand from our trial how it's going to react in Northwest Iowa or how it's going to react in Southeast Iowa. Maybe soil types are a factor, but we really want to be able to deliver those locally relevant insights to local challenges that they have in their region.
Well, Christie, thanks so much for taking the time to join us here today. And one more time, if you have anything else you'd like to let our Iowa listeners, viewers know about, if the hard work being done by the research team, it seems like you guys are always up to something.
This year is going to be another exciting year. We're growing. We've grown our research agronomy team. We've backfilled some slots, and so we have a fully staffed team now, and we're really excited to go out and meet our farmers locally, get them involved locally, and we look forward to having those interactions, conversations, making sure that we're designing the right experiments that are going to answer their questions, and that we're really driving that checkoff investment in a productive way that they receive that value back.
She is Christie Wiebbecke with the Iowa Soybean Association. We are at Farm Forward today in downtown Des Moines for the latest edition of Between the Pods. Christie, thanks so much for taking the time to join us here today, and have a great rest of the event.
Thank you so much, Mark. It was great to have an opportunity to be on.
Thank you once again to Christie Wiebbecke for joining the show today for Between the Pods. And that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok. And you can find previous episodes of AM/PM on our YouTube channel, along with our new video content. Don't forget as well our free twice daily market podcast on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. On behalf of Riley Smith, Dustin Huffman, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.